Okay, let's just jump right in. We are on the brink of a massive, and I mean massive, shift in how pretty much all digital content gets made. By 2026, the entire creative world is going to look completely different. We're moving away from the tools we all know and into something called generative autonomy. And trust me, it's a change you absolutely need to be ready for.
Now, I know this sounds a little extreme, but honestly, it perfectly captures the disruption that's happening as we speak. If you're a creator, a marketer, or a founder, those expensive monthly software subscriptions, they're quickly becoming an outdated tax on your business. The whole game is just fundamentally changing.
And this number, this really puts it all into perspective. $5,000. That's what a typical creative pro can easily spend every single year on a legacy software suite. It's this hidden drain on our resources that, we've all just kind of accepted. Well, that acceptance is about to end.
So, let's start by really breaking this down. Let's talk about the $5,000 problem, this hidden SaaS tax that has been quietly draining creative businesses for years. And it's more than just the money, right? It's a tax on your time and your creative speed.
I mean, think about the old way of doing things. It's a constant juggle. You're bouncing between a dozen different expensive subscriptions for stock footage, design tools, video editors, you name it. You get bogged down in all the tedious manual work like setting keyframes or trying to debug some complex code. You're basically a technical specialist, forced to spend way more time on the how than on the actual what, the big idea. And that brings us to the solution. We are officially entering what I'm calling the autonomy revolution. This is the big shift from being a manual laborer, clicking every single button yourself, to becoming a high-level content orchestrator. And here it is. This is the core concept, generative autonomy. See, this isn't about using AI as just another tool, like some smarter paintbrush in Photoshop. No. This is about managing autonomous agents that can execute complex, multi-step tasks for you. You provide the vision, the strategy, and they handle all the heavy lifting. And look, this isn't some far-off futuristic theory. It is happening right now. We're seeing absolutely explosive growth in these new AI-centric niches. I mean, take betrayal and revenge storytelling. The data is showing a staggering 21 times year-over-year growth. This revolution is already creating brand new, super lucrative markets.
So here's the crucial point for you. Your role is evolving. You are no longer just the editor or the coder or the designer. You are the orchestrator. Your value now comes from your ideas, your strategy, and your ability to direct these autonomous systems to produce incredible content at a scale that was just impossible for a solo creator before.
Okay, so how do you actually do this? Let's get practical. Let's open up the 2026 AI Playbook. This is the AI native execution framework that the fastest moving creators are already using to get way ahead of the curve. All right, the framework has 4 key steps. First, you use data to find a high-growth, low-competition niche. Simple enough. Second, you orchestrate your tool stack, picking the right AI for the job. Third, you build your agentic infrastructure. Now think of this like the central nervous system for your whole AI team. You do this with something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, which is basically a shared language that lets all your different AI tools understand the project goals and work together. And finally, step 4, you set up automated content repurposing to get the most out of everything you create.
Now this brings us to the choices you've got to make in step 2, tool orchestration. For video, it's a real showdown. So do you need quick, punchy 20-second clips for social media storytelling? OpenAI's Sora 2 is your go-to engine. Or do you need breathtaking 4K cinematic realism with perfect lip sync for something that looks broadcast quality? Well, then you turn to Google's Veo 3. Your goal always dictates your tool.
And it's the exact same story with coding. Sure, GitHub Copilot is great for suggesting snippets of code inside an existing workflow. But a tool like Cursor? That's a whole different animal. It's an AI-native environment built for something people are calling vibe coding. Instead of writing every line yourself, you just describe the vibe or the end goal in plain English, and the agent builds the entire application for you. It's an absolute game changer for startups and solo founders who need to move incredibly fast. And here's the thing. A smart orchestrator thinks beyond just making stuff. The very tools you're using can become powerful revenue streams themselves. With these huge recurring commissions from platforms like Notion and Copy.ai, your AI native stack actually becomes a profit center, not just another expense. But, with this much power and speed, there are always going to be risks. It's not a perfect system, not by a long shot. And to really succeed, you have to understand and manage what we'll call the dark side of this whole revolution.
Which leads to the question you should all be asking right about now. This sounds amazing, right? Maybe a little too good to be true? So, what's the catch? Where can this all go wrong? Because understanding the limits is every bit as important as understanding the capabilities.
There are three main risks to watch out for. First is context decay, which is just a fancy way of saying the AI agents can lose track of what they're doing on big projects. You fix that with clear documentation. Second, these tools are beasts. They demand some serious hardware. And third, and this is a big one, are the ethics. AI-generated content demands total transparency, which means using invisible watermarking standards like Google's SynthID. It basically proves the content was made by AI.
But the single most critical risk is what's called the problem-solving issue. You can't outsource your thinking. The real danger is falling into this habit of just hitting regenerate over and over, like you're playing a slot machine, hoping something good comes out. Your job as the orchestrator is to define the problem and the potential failures before you let the AI start executing.
Which brings us to the final verdict. When you really look at the landscape for 2026, the choice becomes incredibly clear. It's pretty much a binary decision. You either learn how to orchestrate these new systems, or your old way of working will simply expire.
So who should make this jump, like right now? Well, for solo creators and startups, the answer is a huge enthusiastic yes, immediately. This is how you get 10 times the content out the door at a tenth of the cost. It's a no-brainer. Now, for large enterprise teams, especially in regulated industries, it's probably wiser to stick with legacy tools for now. They still offer the security and compliance guardrails that this new agentic AI just doesn't have yet.
So let's end on this thought. For years, we've used AI as a chatbot. It's been like a consultant. It gives you a plan, but you still have to go do all the work. We are now entering the age of agents. And an agent is like an employee. It doesn't just talk, it acts. It doesn't just generate text, it generates results. So the only question left is, are you ready for the shift?